Hi, this video is about file systems, more specifically FAT and NTFS, and I'll throw in a little bit of EXT4 in there, but I'll get into that later. Most people don't have to worry about their file system and never will until they need to migrate from one drive or computer to another, or they're changing their operating system and you might need to finagle some things around to get your data moved over properly. All file systems essentially work the same way in that you take your drive and it breaks it up into smaller, more manageable chunks of data, and then there's a system in place to locate and then retrieve that data on command. They all work that way. So FAT, which is File Allocation Table, is used still today. FAT32 to be specific. The 32 is for 32-bit. It is used in USB flash media, external block media, with large drives, several terabytes even. It's a pretty antiquated file system, and I say antiquated because it's there's zero security to speak of. There is limitations to file sizes as well as volume sizes. They have exFAT now, which can get larger. They have a much more a larger memory load that you can put on them, but they're still pretty limited. So it uses a block directory. So the first bit of information of each data set is written into the block directory. So to retrieve that information, the FAT file system needs to jump to the block directory, locate the data, then go to the data, then back to the block directory, then to the data again. So over and over and over again to retrieve the entire load that you're trying to retrieve from the drive. That can get really time consuming, if you can imagine, with today's standards of high resolution photos and 4K video and PC video games and things like that people typically transfer back and forth. Windows uses NTFS, which is New Technology File System. They used to use FAT, but I believe they switched over when it turned into Windows XP, and from there they just continued to use NTFS. It operates pretty similarly to FAT, but it offered three major upgrades. The upgrades being security. You can now encrypt files. Volume size. You could have much more larger volumes and larger files being transferred over, and that helped with performance is the third. So what it does is it first writes the first bit of data on the drive is called the master table. The master table is set up of, think of them like an index to a book. It's a pointers to where the data is stored in the manageable chunks on the drive. So when you go to retrieve something, the drive then looks at the master table, then knows where to go and goes and retrieves it. So those files can be written and retrieved contiguously as long as the drive is set up correctly, but some of the same constraints that FAT has are still present in NTFS. So just keep that in mind, but it is definitely an upgrade in security as well as performance. Now my last little 2 cents is everyone should ditch Windows. Go get Linux. It's free. It uses the EXT4 file system, and it offers several, even if they're small, they offer several upgrades. File sizes can be 16 terabytes. That's individual files. It lowers drive fragmentation. You can name files special characters, which you cannot do in FAT and to a certain extent NTFS. Probably the biggest upgrade would be the unallocated space. When you have EXT4 and you only use half the drive, the other half is written as unallocated space, so that when you have a function that you need to scan the drive for whatever reason, it only scans the area that information is, which saves you a lot of time when those things need to happen. So not to mention Linux is free, and you can just put Windows in a virtual box and pretty much do the same thing that you would need to do. So those are my 2 cents with the operating systems for FAT, or file systems for FAT and NTFS. Thank you.